Continuing here, just finishing that thought about these questions that the mainstream media never seems to ask, okay, because they're getting their talking points from above, from these top evildoers, okay, from the people writing their checks, okay, and you could trace it right up to the top, okay. And the whole idea is, people talk about misinformation and disinformation and fake news, but here's a new term. It's malinformation, okay? It's malignant and it's malicious and it's evil. Okay, that's what the information is because it deliberately seeks to divide people into a state of irreconcilable differences where we're never going to get it together here. But just, asking these questions like why the Labor Department has been utterly, profoundly remiss. It's their job to set the minimum wage, okay? That's it. It's a law, right? This is the least you're supposed to be by law paying your workers. If you hire somebody by law over the table, if you're hiring them, then this is it. I'm not talking. Look, I probably broke the law by working for less than minimum wage when I was 15. Okay, in Connecticut on a dairy farm for $1 an hour, 10 hours a day, because that was less than minimum wage at that time. We're talking about 1970, about 73, 1973. I was 15, and the minimum wage was more than that. These statistics are online. You can look them up at the Labor Department website. So if you want to know and check my facts, then it's as simple as just picking up the chart. Just Google the chart, and you'll find this and know what the minimum wage was. But by law, that was it, an over-the-table job. Okay, an over-the-table job, you're supposed to get X amount by law, okay, according to the dictates of the Labor Department. So it's their job to dictate these things. And if they had done that, okay, year after year, these people running the show are so diabolical. It's so hard for me to wrap my mind around. As much as I study what's been going on here, and it just gets, I talk about it, it's as clear as light of day, the nose on my face. It just gets clearer and clearer and clearer that it's very involved, it's very convoluted, and it's very intricate, this web that they weave to pull the wool over our eyes, okay? That's what's going on here. Is they started out subtly, slowly, okay, and then they've picked up steam. And like I talked about at the beginning of the video, I talked about how there's been these increments where there's been these leaps, these jumps of the Overton window. And, and one example of that was, of course, as many have pointed out, Max Kaiser, I believe, pointed out recently, but that was one of the times when America went off the gold standard. Richard Nixon, I think, was a big part of that, taking America off the gold standard. We saw a big movement because I'm always saying, look, it started with the coup in 1963 when JFK was murdered, Cui Bono, the Federal Reserve, because, he was extinguishing them. He was abolishing the Federal Reserve. So, it doesn't take a genius, a rocket scientist, to figure out that they shouldn't exist the day after his murder. Any hint of impropriety, but the impropriety was glaringly like, oh, gee, there's no way. There's no way the American people are going to go for this entity existing anymore. Okay, because we were already circulating this new currency. Where'd it go? Where are silver notes? Where are silver certificates? So, JFK would be utterly ashamed of the American people, utterly. All you people, you honor and pay tribute to Martin Luther King Jr., and you don't believe in a basic income. Well, that was one of his precepts that he believed strongly in, as I do. I mean, there's more than one way to skin a cat. I'd rather just have sound economic policy, not have that need through real progress. You could, prosperity across the board is what I'm talking about here. But of course, like I say, skin the cat any damn way you can. But, they talk about JFK and all this, but they have no idea. I mean, they want to support crony capitalism in any of its incarnations. You can't do it. You just can't do it. And people don't want to hear. I forget who told me recently, maybe a friend, family, stranger. I forget where I heard it. But somebody pointed out to me that, people don't enjoy you telling them that they were, built their fortune on the backs of crony capitalism and all this. And I say, well, that's all that's existed in this country. Okay, since 1963, at his assassination. But they started subtly and slowly, and gradually they picked up steam, and you get these leaps and bounds. Like in 1970, when was it? Nixon got us off the gold standard there. 74 something, I forget. But the next big one that I remember came in 2008. There's been the steady progress in debasing our currency and clipping the currency, the coin clipping, stealing the wealth of the people. This is how their wealth is stolen. How your wealth is stolen through currency debasement. This is what it's all about. How do they do that? By raising your cost of living tax arbitrarily. Okay? Do you understand that they're utterly disconcerted, coldly disconcerted? They don't care. You take the politicians, they give themselves raises for doing an abysmal job, and then they don't give. Do they ever have the Labor Department come in and say, why aren't you giving people commensurate cost of living adjustments? Okay, how is it not warranted? How is it not justified? Who can defend it? Okay, that they don't give commensurate cost of living adjustments with based on reality, what their basic cost to exist, to live, to survive is. Housing, food, energy needs. You understand? All those things need to be calculated in what they call a market basket of goods, the cost price index of something. And then you calculate, you say, well, we've had inflation, right or wrong, whether it's based on, a disruption in the supply chain, which is the only real basis you're supposed to have your cost of living tax go up. If there's a disruption, other than that, progress dictates that your cost of living tax goes down and your currency goes up in worth. Whatever the opposite of currency debasement is, that's what happens to your money. Do you understand? Automatically, naturally, through true capitalism. That's what happens in free market supply and demand economy. That's progress, okay? There's no arguing. There's no refuting what I'm saying. It's fact. It's truth. It's unassailable, okay? Information that I'm giving you. I want you to be empowered, to be strong, and carry your fair share away to the cross. Fight the good fight for humanity. In order to be free, you have to free others. Seek to free others. We go this thing together, not alone. That's it, man. We've got to talk to people and, point out how the devil's in the detail of this division plan to keep us, to create irreconcilable differences with socialism and capitalism, always blaming the other one and not really caring enough and loving each other enough because we're all distracted with the daily cares of life to love each other and to be godly and above all have our values and principles intact and in order and above all, above making a profit, we're not doing that. So God is angry, and it's a terrible thing to fall into the hands of an angry God. So what I'm saying really has to do with salvation and getting your own heart right. Because you can't make somebody, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. You can't make somebody else's heart right. Only God can do that. But you can bring them the information and try to empower them with the knowledge. These simple facts, these simple basic economic principles I'm teaching you are sound. They'll hold water. If you read Adam Smith's book, The Wealth of Nations, you'll understand the same stuff. If you read the Bible, you'll understand the same stuff. God is consistent. He has a heart for the poor. He wants the captive set free. Who are the captives and how are they bound? Understand that. How are they imprisoned? How are they enslaved? It's through Satan's ambrosia, the money, and all those that adhere to it and tout its wonderful benefits and how this is the key to happiness and freedom and security. Okay? And there's your salvation. Understand, the heart of men is wicked. So, I'm glad to stand before God with my beliefs of being an equalitarian, an egalitarian, a good American, basically, that believes in setting the captives free. Not some of the captives, all of them. Okay? And you could stand before God with your beliefs. If you don't believe those things, nobody has to answer to me or any other human being. That's to no avail. No other human being could save your soul, so why would you bother trying to over-explain yourself to someone else? That's just trying to rationalize and justify yourself. I got to get it off my chest. So you need somebody to bring down with your, the problems you're having dealing with your conscience, and you want to just justify it and say, well, look, if I didn't do it, this guy would do it, and that's how we think, right? That, I'm jumped on the bandwagon. I'm prudent. I'm practical. I'm pragmatic. And you're just stupid. And you're the one that's trying to be rationalized and make excuses for being financially unsuccessful. And, you're all talk but no do. Put your money where your mouth is. All this crap. And I think, man, you know what? I know my values at least. Look, if I'm dead today, I know I'm going to stand for God with my credo, my belief system, my philosophies, and I'm fine with that. Okay, He's not going to care that I was financially unsuccessful. Okay, my family might, friends might, I mean, a lot of people maybe want me to be successful. Maybe they don't want me to be successful because, how it is. You raise the bar, and then the family says, "Well, that makes me look bad because now so and so in the family has gotten rich, and they made me look bad because I looked down on them for being poor and all this time, and now they're the rich ones." So a lot of even family, people, so-called friends, might not want you financially successful. Some will. Okay, those are your true friends. Okay, so it's not what we say so much as what we do, our behavior, our vibes, and who we are inside. Okay, and that's what's really most important. At the end of the day, we have our relationship with our owner, God Almighty, and we've got to explain it. We've got to justify how we think we deserve to inherit a better world, a world where people are free, entirely free, not not enslaved by an unjust paradigm of privilege and lack of privilege, of advantage and disadvantage, of groups and individual of people have an advantage and one up on somebody else, okay, by birth, by birthright, right? They're born in hereditary wealth and all this. Okay, I don't support it. I mean, that's it. Either everybody gets to be born with hereditary wealth because it's by divine right and divine inheritance. It belongs to everybody rightfully, logically speaking, and that should be our paradigm. But just understand that I'm pointing out the fraud in our system and how rife it is, and all the problems and how they're created and manufactured artificially. And these are the ones I complain about. You notice I'm not complaining about the Kilauea volcano, and this is horrible for people, all these natural organic disasters that stem from the fall of man, the original sin, and the knowledge of good and evil, and the subsequent curse that befell the earth, as Scripture calls it, that now all the entire creation is groaning under the weight of sin. We screwed it up for all the other creatures, which explains why they're instinctively, intuitively afraid of humans, because they know, without knowing it intellectually, they know intuitively, instinctively, we are a threat. We are the predators because we've been preyed on. We were preyed on by Satan in the Garden of Eden. That's what the whole metaphor is all about. By this devilish entity that did not have our best interests at stake, that is not created in the image and likeness of God. And this is mostly a metaphor, an allegory for what's inside us, which is far more important than what's external. Okay, like I was just saying, is that this is evil, and it manifests itself in our heart and mind is not right, is not pure, it's off, and it's satanic. Whether we're cognizant, aware of it or not, that's the way it is. So it's easy for a lot of people to be led like sheep to the slaughter, totally obliviously, unawares, ignorantly, in a state of confusion and disempowerment, that they're just led like sheep to the slaughter to this thing. But where we're made in the image and likeness, we've got to tap into is in our heart and soul, our spirit and our mind. Our true values should be in sync with His true values, which is you, which is me, which is other human beings. It's not the temporal things of this world, which are really they're equivalent to a dream. Okay, just like a book falling off the shelf can jar you out of sleep, so too a stray bullet can jar you out of everything you're familiar with right now. It's amazing that human beings cope and contend with that, facing death day in and day out as well as we do. It's amazing. But no, what we have to deal with here is this artificial suffering. That's my complaint. That's my supplication, is that I need to be free. I've got to seek it. I've got to seek happiness. In order to be happy, I must be free. And I know, I've realized, I've figured out, I stumbled upon, I've deduced, I've concluded that I can't do it alone. And if I see that other people have a more difficult, burdensome, onerous situation, contending with the money masters of misery, and I just want to take it away from them. If I had a superpower, I would take away everybody's stressors. And this fear-driven unreality we're all forced to have to contend with and comply with and capitulate to some degree, just to just to get along, go along to get along, to, at least enough to where you get to survive, you get to live, you get to exist. It's a real pain in the ass, and I'm just saying it the way it is, man. And it pisses me off. I need to be free, folks. You need to be free. This is what's going to make you happy. This, if we're gonna shake off the chains of all the vices, all the forms of escapism, this running away from and hiding from what we are afraid to face. We're afraid to face just dealing with this reality. I mean, I find it stressful to check my emails. I find it stressful to get my mail. I mean, life is stressful. I find it stressful to vote. I find it stressful to deal with life day in and day out. Just got to pay this bill. Oh my gosh, am I making enough money to pay that bill? And I mean, it's such a pain in